Mouthwashing, the game of all 2024. I do mean that, by the way. This game is one of the most irritating pieces of media I have ever consumed. I mean that in a good way. It is so incredibly well written and horrific, it made me feel another kind of despair, as opposed to my usual default despair, with characters that at first feel like characters, but as the game moves forward and then backwards and forward and backwards, they feel more and more like real people. You have Swansea, my second favorite of the whole cast, a seasoned man who is grumpy and pessimistic. You know, that guy in media, almost like a requirement. But Swansea at the end of the game is so much more than that. Then you have Jimmy, a douchebag who, even though he is a monster and a coward, you see him struggle to come to terms with what he's done, too much so that it consumes him. He loses his mind, living in denial, lying to himself, and he never really faces any kind of justice, but saves one person at the end, even if that person's fate is arguably worse than death, and they are still, just like Jimmy, a horrible person. You have Anya, who is that typical shy character, but as it goes on, you find out it's much more than just shyness or anything like that. It's a horrific gut punch and an ice cold shower when you find out why she is the way that she is. You have Daisuke, who is that lovable, dim-witted assistant or sidekick you always see in media, but again, just like Swansea, he is so much more than that by the end of the game. A kid who just wanted to do something with himself, even if it wasn't big or amazing. And then you have Curly. I would argue he is the most complex and conflicted out of the bunch, at least at the start. By the end, I think he's more firmly on one side more than another. Still a horrible person. With that being said, I understand that this game is not for everyone, and understandably so. This game deals with very heavy themes, and some people might not like the art style or simply might not like the way this game is structured. So with that being said, if any of these topics is stuff that you don't want to even think about, I completely understand, and this is your cue to leave, because this video is not for you. But even if people don't like the art style or the way this game is structured, they have to admit is nothing short of well-written, mind-bending horror that you cannot ignore, because you must take responsibility. Our story starts in deep space in a freighter called the Tuplar. With a crew of 5. The route you're taking to make this shipment is going to take approximately 382 days. Currently, you're 147 days into your journey.
I hope this hurts.
You find yourself in a cockpit. An asteroid is in front of your space freighter, and you must turn left to not crash into it. You have two options: turn right or leave. Strange considering that in order to avoid this asteroid you have to turn left. So why would you turn right? An alarm is now flashing on screen telling you to make the calculated adjustments or suffer the wrath of space. You find a key in a locker to your right. And you disengage autopilot. Warning on your screen. The crash is imminent. You walk away into the hallway. It's endless. The ship is now hanging on by a thread as sparks and steam are coming out of the pipes. And then it's been 2 months after the crash. You're now sitting with your crewmates in the common room. Anya to your right, Daisuke is sitting across from you, and Swansea is right next to Daisuke. You're all discussing your options since the crash. Your cargo freighter is badly damaged but holding. You're going back and forth whether to check on the cargo to see if it's valuable enough to get rescued since your company is going out of business. Just one problem. The crew isn't allowed to look at the cargo. Swansea holds steady, saying that no one is touching that cargo for any reason. Anya makes an argument for the opposite, saying the cargo could hold something useful to get yourselves out of your predicament. Jimmy, you, the player, make an argument agreeing with Anya. The plan to find the code scanner only issued to the captain of the ship to open the cargo hold. Swansea retorts with go ahead and ask him about it, referring to the captain, which we have yet to meet. Jimmy says we don't need the captain, we just need the scanner. For better or worse, Jimmy is now the captain. With that statement, you now stand up and explore the now heavily damaged ship. Nothing but a thick layer of foam protecting you from the coldness and harshness of space. Find posters of the mascot of Pony Express, your employers. They're shutting down, and your crew is one of the last manned cargo holds across space before they shut down. Your chances of actually being saved are low. You run into Swansea in the hallway by the door to the utility room. He isn't letting anyone in because of a dangerous vent that is prone to cutting people open. As it almost did Anya, you continue on your way down the hall. You find the cockpit. On the floor is the code scanner, so you pick it up. And make your way to the cargo room to get the code for the door. Swansea stands by the keypad and tells you to go fetch the nurse, Anya. You find her in the nurse's office, and on the operating table is Curly. Anya asks for your help to give Curly his medication for his wounds. He won't sit still to take them because of the pain, and Anya can't bear the noise he makes when he takes them. So, she turns to you, Jimmy. And with that, you give Curly, the former captain, his medication. And before he swallows, Anya leaves, not being able to bear the noise. Curly, now a mangled mess of skin, flesh, and bones, in pain 24/7, can do nothing but watch. What was his role in the crash? What was he doing before it? Did he really do it? You walk out to confront Anya about her lack of professionalism. She's on the floor with her hands over her face. With that final line from Jimmy, you head back to the cargo room to finally get it open and see if you really have a chance of making it out of here alive. Four, 5, 1, 7. The doors slowly open, and before you can find out what's in the ocean of boxes, it's 7 days before the crash, and you're now in Curly's shoes. Suggesting he do it for Anya so she wouldn't have to deal with Jimmy's antics. Before you leave, Anya hands you a note written by Swansea. With that off of Anya's shoulders and the note from Swansea, you go find Jimmy first. You find him standing outside the utility room, the room from earlier that Swansea was standing in front of, guarding. Inside you see Swansea and Daisuke. Daisuke is trapped in the foam, and right above him, an open vent cover. The vent from earlier Swansea was so concerned about. Swansea asks you to get him the axe for him since just like the code scanner, it's one of those tools that only the captain has the authority to use. You get it and free Daisuke from the foam by carefully chopping the foam out from around him. Once Daisuke is free of the foam, Swansea barks out once more. He tells Swansea that this can't happen again, because it could have damaged the pods. The pods are vital and very important, so if they got damaged, it would be your ass. You let Swansea hold onto the axe until this mess is fully cleaned up. With that situation sorted, you now go talk to Jimmy to do the psychological evaluation you took on for Anya. As you make your way to the cockpit, the hallways seem longer. Were those stairs always there? And that long? Eventually you find yourself on the edge of some pipes leading to a dark unknown bottom. You step off and fall into a pool of blood. It's pitch black. But looking up is a deep space. You walk in this surreal place. bladder spring out of the pool, the sun rising on the edge. This endless pool until... You see a door.
It's your fault.
A white barren room you find yourself in.
It's your fault. You could have stopped him. It's your fault. It's your fault.
And open it. You find Jimmy sitting in the cockpit. So, you have a seat.
Well powered through it. Have you been able to complete your mandated tasks as co-pilot efficiently and to your fullest capacity?
Let's see.
I'll just put good for that one. That's all of them. Done and done. How are things otherwise? Off the record.
I like it. We're in control here.
Didn't think you'd ever take to being a fighter pilot as well as you have. What with how you struggled back on Earth.
Sure, all I ever hear is how great of a leader you are. Honestly, it's kind of annoying. So what is it? How come it always seems like you're standing on the edge of a bridge with your feet in cement?
Lately, I've just been thinking, is this enough? Should I just stay here because I've been successful at it? A good long-haul fighter captain.
And that's bad?
That's what I'm saying. It's not. But it's terrifying. I think, am I figured out? Is this all I'll ever be? Or do I take the risk and try something new? Even if I'm bad at it.
I guess I get it. You reached the highest rung on this ladder, so now you're thinking you might be on the wrong ladder altogether. Still a long way down from the top, no matter how you look at it, while I'm still climbing and climbing.
Something like that. But hey, you know I believe in you. Here, on Earth. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You should write that on the psyche eval. You then get interrupted during this conversation by an incoming message from the higher-ups at Pony Express. And before you can read it, you end up in the cargo room, only it's dark. And impossibly large. Another delusion. At the end of this row, you find a TV.
Here, in fact, is the answer to a dream as old as man himself.
You find a commercial for Dragon Breath mouthwashing. You then find yourself back where you finally started 2 months after the crash. You're with your crew in the cargo room. You were hoping to find valuable cargo so that Pony Express could come to the cargo, and by extension, you. You open the box to find mouthwash. Lots and lots of it. This is your cargo. There is no doubt now, you're on your own. This discovery doesn't go over well. Finding out that it has 14% ethanol, Swansea figures that he can get drunk off of it. He's already read the writing on the wall, at least what he seems to figure it says, and he decides to indulge. Once 15 years sober, Swansea is now getting drunk off the mouthwash. This discovery is a gut punch to the whole crew. Now that help is definitely not coming, and on top of it, the cargo isn't helpful to their situation. As Anya points out, the sugar content in the mouthwash prevents it from being any kind of disinfectant, so if you were to pour it on your fresh wounds, it would just hurt. After this, you jump back to 6 days before the crash. You're Curly again, and you have to break some news to the crew. You go to the common room and are surprised when they have set up a birthday party for you. The only thing is that they're missing a cake, and you as a captain are the only one on the ship with the clearance to make a cake with the ingredients provided to you by Pony Express. All the ingredients in the kitchen have a code, and curiously, the only one that requires a code scanner is the sweetener. As a captain, you have to use your code scanner to unlock the cake sweetener. You mix it all together, and now that the cake is finished, you sit down to have some, and of course, break the news.
That's all it said on the report from management. We will receive the paycheck for this delivery. I don't know any more than that.
When did they tell you?
Earlier this week, I was instructed to wait until we're closer to the haul destination. But I can't keep something like this from you all.
So I guess you got what you wanted. Without the guilt.
Jim, if I had known.
I can go back to how'd you put it, struggle of a life? Anya never got into medical school because she's just, well, let's be real. And how many employment years Swansea got left in them? Guys would be fine. Mommy and Daddy have them covered, so there's that, at least. But you, headed for the bigger and better, right?
I'm just working on my life being a place I don't have to fucking escape. That's what I was trying to tell you. Nothing more.
We're the ones you're trying to escape. Leave the dirt behind now that your boots are clean.
That's not what I meant.
It is what you meant. You just couldn't frame it to yourself in a way that kept you the hero. Abandon the crew but remain the model captain. Let's have some fucking cake, Props to the Twilight crew, the 2 plur. Props to our captain and his new prospects. Everyone takes this a little differently. Jimmy isn't happy to hear this, as is everyone else, but he goes on to be the most condescending to everyone around him. Jimmy is especially not happy with you. Curly, you and Jimmy get into a bit of an argument, and Jimmy laments that you are, as he puts it, going on to bigger and better things, while the rest of the crew are essentially screwed. And with that, you have cake. You wake up as Jimmy, 3 months after the crash, in the common area, and you go check on Curly. He's doing about as well as can be expected for someone in his state. You're unsure as if he's had his medicine yet, so you go find Anya to ask her. You find Anya in the cockpit talking with Swansea. You stick to your word. You go back to the nurse's office, and just before you're going to give Curly his medication, You find yourself in the common room. It's tinted red, and in front of you is a table with one occupant, Curly. In front of Curly is a birthday cake. You approach and take a seat. In this strange delusion, you go searching for the knife to this cake. You can't help but notice how dark this dream is compared to real life. The day and night backdrop is gone and replaced by emergency signs. You head to the cockpit in search of a knife, and you find an axe. As soon as you pick it up, eyes watching your every move, judging you, not with words, but with a glare, an unbreaking glare. Never mind that. It's time to feast on some cake with your best friend, Curly. As you return to the common room, you find another eye judging you. And instead of cake on the table, it's Curly. A disturbing realization is made. Curly is the cake. Before you can dig in, you jump forward 4 months after the crash. You go to check on the crew, how they're doing. And you find Deathscape passed out on the floor.
Before anything else, my mom found this internship for me. Such a slacker, she said. I don't know. I just never knew what I wanted to be. Never was good at anything. Total screw up. I just hope she doesn't blame herself. Please, just take it. I don't want to look at this stuff anymore.
Deathscape hands you the bottle, not wanting to indulge anymore, and you take it. You walk around some more. Towards the common room, and then there you find Anya. She's sitting at the table looking at the bottle of mouthwash, thinking about drinking it. With this new proposition from Anya to get the medicine from the storage locker, you walk over to Swansea, who is also in the common room, now clearly wasted, drinking that mouthwash. You find him dancing with the axe. On paper, it's a good idea to get the axe away from him since he is so severely intoxicated. So, you go to ask him for it. With that outburst from Swansea, you take the axe to get the previously mentioned painkillers for Curly. You carefully chop away at the foam to reveal the medical box. And then, with that, Jimmy gives Curly his painkillers. "6 hours until judgment." You find yourself trapped in the cockpit, with Swansea on the other side demanding you get out and face him. You cut back to 2 days before the crash. You're sitting in the common room in what would be night on the ship, but you aren't alone. Anya is there with you. You're playing as Curly.
Or stare at the ceiling all night.
I actually kind of like the nighttime window screen, if you can believe it. So I just come look at it sometimes. If you look really, really close, you can see there's a dead pixel in the upper right-hand corner.
That's so. Nope, don't see it.
In the back of my mind, it's always there.
Now I'll go bonkers looking for it. Cheers. I don't think it ruins the illusion though. It's peaceful. But maybe I'm just used to looking at the bigger picture.
How many days of transport do we have left?
Let's see. Off the top of my head, Around 237 days. Just under.
8 months. Hey, why do you think Pony Express put a lock on the medical room door, but not on the sleeping quarters?
I suppose for the same reason they put a lock on the cockpit. Safety.
Back to 5 months after the crash, you're in the common room as Jimmy before the incident with Swansea in the cockpit. Daisuke comes up to you and pleads for your help. You both make your way to the medical room door and check on Anya, who is apparently trapped in there, according to Daisuke. Anya doesn't respond. With this plan in mind, you and Daisuke head to the utility room to find Swansea standing guard like he was before, but now he's severely intoxicated and much more irritable than usual. You ask him for his help, but he still refuses to let anyone into utility. You go back and forth with Swansea until Jimmy decides just to go, as there's no point in reasoning with Swansea. You jump forward to 8 hours until judgment. 2 hours before Swansea was threatening to chop you up in the cockpit. Daisuke's on the ground, squirming. He's all cut up in pain. With that, you go find a substitute disinfectant for Daisuke's wounds, exploring the ship. It's now more of a wreck. More than it already was. You find an out-of-place grave, possibly for one or more of our members. As you continue to explore, you have to take responsibility for everything, for pushing Daisuke to enter that vent. Swansea said it was dangerous, but he should have been more careful. You check the medicine box in the hallway, empty. You check the medical bay to find only the left corner is completely blurred out. What happened? Why am I blind to this? Swansea's to the right, leaning on the counter, clearly frustrated. On the floor near a vent is blood. Lots of it. It's Daisuke's. Whatever happened in that vent was not pretty, but it's not your fault, right? It's his. He should have been more careful. You keep your desperate search for a disinfectant, anything for Daisuke. And then you head towards a cargo hole. These stairs are too long. In front of you, you find boxes of dragon breath mouthwash and a note, a blind beast, aimless and restless. You can't run from it. Simple, concise, and terrifyingly clear. You cannot run. You walk across this foreign maze, every step is loud and it's clear. You aren't alone. There is something here with you. The only guide is your scanner. This is what's hunting you, invisible to the naked eye, only visible with the scanner, a blind beast, aimless and restless. You can't run from it. Those words make a terrifying amount of sense now, and that scanner is much more important than it was before. You continue across this maze, stopping occasionally because your footsteps catch the attention of the beast. You make it to the end, and you see the goal, Dragon Breath. With that, this horrific vision ends and you are back with Daisuke. He's still writhing in pain on the ground, apologizing as if it's his fault. In your desperate attempt to help Daisuke, you poured mouthwash all over his wounds. You knew in the back of your mind it wouldn't work. Anya told you as much when you first found it, but you still did it because you can fix this. You and Daisuke go to the kitchen to make this special cocktail. Instead of using the listed ingredients, you figure you should use isopropyl and dragon breath mouthwashing, and with that, you now have the base cocktail. But you're missing the sweetener. So you ask Daisuke about it. And he tells you he has a secret stash and he accidentally misplaced it. You look through his stuff and find it. You now have a delicious special cocktail custom made just for Swansea, a peace offering. With that, he finally drinks up and he passes out. Despite Daisuke freaking out, you just grab the key off of Swansea and open the utility room. Only to discover it's barely foamed up, and it seems a little less fragile than what he led us to believe. You also find out that only one of the cryostasis pods remains, and that it can keep you frozen for up to 20 years. One day before the crash, you find yourself in medical as Curly. You need to find a gun.
Polly says, "Are you working hard? Or hard are you working?"
You search all across the ship for it, as it's an invaluable item only to be used in emergencies and by people who have the proper clearance. You get to the cockpit where you find Anya. She's on the floor. She's crying. "6 hours before judgment." With that exchange, you have to go find the gun. You enter medical only to find the previously blurred corner is no longer censored. You see Anya slumped over right below Curly. In her right hand, an open bottle of painkillers. It's clear as to what happened. Open underneath the table where Curly lays is a case, the gun case. But as soon as you take it, as you exit medical, Swansea is standing at the end of the hallway with the axe in his hand. You transition back to the day of the crash. You find Anya in medical. With that being said, you go to the cockpit to find Jimmy to talk to him. At the entrance, you find him. With that sickening truth now revealed, Jimmy goes to intentionally sabotage the ship, and therefore doom the crew. Curly knew all along. And he just stood by. He did nothing. It's too late. Jimmy did it. 1 hour before judgment. Now as Jimmy, you're holding Curly in your arms as you make your way to the common room table. The seats are all taken by the now deceased members of the two-player freighter crew. You lay Curly on the table. They're all cheering for you. A good captain you become, just like Curly. You fixed it. Made it all better. And no one can take that away from you. Now it's time for you to cut up the cake, Curly. Your jealousy is on full display now. Your narcissism. You can do no wrong. All you've ever done for this crew is try to fix it and make it better. Now you get to hold on to the title of being a great captain. And you did it simply by taking responsibility. You find yourself back in another delusion as Jimmy. You're in medical. The room is vastly different and almost unrecognizable. That is, save for the vent that Desky got injured in. You go in and find yourself inside the vents, except they're abnormally large. Or, you seem to be smaller than you realized, Jimmy. You follow the path the vent leads you to. You find Desky standing there, but you can't seem to get a good look at him. The atmosphere is now blood red. And you see a vent with a light shining through it and a note attached to it. No turning back now. It seems like you must obey, and so instead of turning you back, you walk backwards. And was that vent there? You are now in the hallways of the ship. The layout is not how I remember it. This makes no sense. You open the door only to fall through a tunnel of Pony Express posters and land in a room with a singular bench surrounded by axes. You crawl in because you can't turn back. You eventually drop out of the vent maze into a room. It's devoid of anything and anyone except for you and, Swansea, tied to a chair. On the ground in front of him is a gun, the one Anya hid from you, specifically so that you couldn't have it. You're presented with two options now. Do nothing or use it. You pull the trigger and find yourself in a graveyard. No, this doesn't make sense. This isn't. Wait, was that Swansea? You shoot Swansea, but he runs off. You are now fighting Swansea in a graveyard. It's you or him. He's obviously lost his mind. He's drunk. He killed Daisuke. You only try to make it right, so it has to be you over him. You shoot him again. And again. I have something to say, so shut the fuck up and listen. I spent 13 years half cut up to my eyeballs. Drunk, to put it mildly. And suddenly, I saw it, a streetlight shining in my face. 500 gigawatts of the power of God. A vision of my bloated body found in some ditch. Scared me straight. So, I got a collar shirt, a mortgage, and a credit card. All the things that make a good man. I hoped I could raise my children to be better than their old man. I wanted to believe I was never one setback away from my worst self. But the truth is, discipline, drive, routine, the endless fucking desperation to get shit done. A loving wife, great kids, sobriety. I'm telling you, accomplishments I'd been chasing all my life, never felt as good as I expected when I crossed the finish line. So now that we're at the end, taking inventory, those nights spinning out of my head, sinking into the sofa, broken glass in my palms, bleeding dry, the funniest thing ever. Old dogs laughing and snarling on the waterbed floor, mocking the moon for daring to show its face. All nausea and wreckage and vomit and ugly cruelty. The only problem in the world is an empty bottle. Those were the best days of my life. Yeah, those were the best days of my life. I've got nothing to hide, ready to face the music. I can see myself for what I am, but you, a cowardly, selfish motherfucker, and you can't even see it. I should have been able to protect the kid. If I could have done one thing right, I wish it had been to give him one small chance off this goddamn rock. Fuck you. After executing Swanson, you make your way through the messed up hallway. Eyes are watching you. They're Curly's. First a few, then more, and more. Until they themselves become the walls. Then you find yourself in a fleshy tunnel. Continue forward. An exit out of Curly's head. You find a catwalk and walk ahead to this area. Curly is strapped to a table with valves sticking out of him. You turn one lever. It's clear what you must do. A puzzle for you to solve, with Curly as the pieces. You align the screens best you can and get up close to Curly. You open his mouth and feed him his own leg. The screens represent his digestive tract. And you watch as his leg goes down. After that, you turn around to fix the TV. Help me, it reads. You approach it to find yourself. In space, you are staring back at yourself.
I want to go home.
We are home.
Why don't you finish what you started? Don't worry. If anyone ever finds us, I'll still be playing the villain. You'll be the better man in the end, like you wanted. I could have stopped it. I'm taking responsibility.
No, we can both be heroes. We're a team, just you and me like we used to be. What happened was an accident. We were trapped. Made a mistake, alright? I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Curly. travel through this vent and find, well, you aren't sure. Pick up an ultrasound scanner on the desk and you look for whatever is in that thing. You find a horse in there. You hear cries and then in the vents. Again. With that thing. You have to avoid it. But it catches you once. Twice. You eventually find yourself standing in front of a door in the hallway. The door doesn't budge, so you go towards the hallway. Are those IDs floating midair? Upstairs. A mountain of mouthwash, and at the top is Polly.
Polly says,
You find yourself back in what seems like reality, and not another one of Jimmy's delusions. Back at the table with the crew, back at your celebration. You carry Curly through what seems like an endless hallway to go home. You reach a door and you open it. The cryostasis pods. The one you assumed and convinced Daisuke that Swansea was going to use for himself.
Polly says,
I rise above negative feelings and thoughts. I love who I'm becoming. How about you?
That's how the game ends. That's how mouthwashing breaks you. I have to say, when I first played this game on stream, I was at a loss for words as to how thoroughly disgusted I felt with myself. We're going to make it through this. You didn't, you fucking asshole. For those 3.5 hours, I was getting fucked with and broken down, and I didn't even realize it until it was too late. I have played a lot of video games in my time on Earth since I popped out of my mother, and very few can compete with how hard this game fucked with me mentally. It's disgusting in both what Jimmy did to Anya and how Jimmy behaved like he was the messiah to this group that he himself doomed in the first place, to how he manipulated Daisuke into ultimately meeting his maker, or killing Swansea simply because he thought he was in the right, or in the body horror in full display, mainly through Curly, or the visions Jimmy kept on having about Curly or Polly. It was horrific with the realizations I was making along the way as I played it, and how my chat pointed me towards the connections I was making myself. Horrifically well structured for suspense, and it had me on the edge of my seat, practically begging to find out what happened to Anya in medical, or who crashed the ship, or what happened to Daisuke. It was a roller coaster of despair, and it only served to keep making me sicker to my stomach. I can't really put it in better words. I think that Curly is an incredibly well-written character who is a bad person. Anya had come to him with a problem that is as clear-cut as anything could be, and instead of choosing Anya's side, you know, the right side, he chose to play nice with both Jimmy and Anya. I guess trying to play a mediator because he felt he owed Jimmy something, like a chance to redeem himself or anything, and then that in turn affected Anya as well. But Jimmy isn't that sort of guy. In case you hadn't noticed, he crashed an entire freighter ship out in the armpit of nowhere in space, not only not to face the consequences of what he did to Anya, but out of jealousy of what Curly had accomplished, and therefore dooming everyone on the ship, simply because he wouldn't No, he couldn't take responsibility, which is the whole theme of the game, right? Responsibility. And he kept this attitude up until the end, where he drove Anya to take her own life, not only by doing what he did to her, but by being arrogant and rude and dismissive towards her and making her feel like it's her fault. Or when Daisuke got killed, not before Jimmy preyed on his insecurities and used that to manipulate Daisuke, because Daisuke wanted to be good enough. That's all he wanted, and Jimmy knew that and still chose to push him to go into that vent, or just killing Swansea because he saw him for what he was, for what he truly was, a spineless, narcissistic, delusional man-child who couldn't see himself for what he was. And I think that last speech from Swansea is very important. So yeah, but obviously Jimmy having the gun, he had the advantage. Mind you, an advantage that Anya tried so hard but didn't, ultimately, unfortunately, didn't prove Jimmy from attaining the gun. And when Swansea called Jimmy out for what he was killed for it. Jimmy is the worst of the worst, and what's worse than that, in my opinion, is that you're forced to play as this guy and the other spineless guy, Curly, for the entirety of this game. You're not in control. Like, it plays out how it plays out, and it's frustrating, and that ultimately is what breaks you. With all that being said, I have been Gray Dixon, and I appreciate you for staying to the end, if you did, because I worked hard on the script, the editing, and the video in general, and I just wanted to give my opinion on mouthwashing, and start a discussion in the comments about this game if possible, because I love being geeky and just talking about video game characters in general. So yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, bye bye.
Maybe I should put the microphone to the bathroom door so you guys can hear Gray Dixon pee. Gray Dixon peeing ASMR. Drop a comment if you guys would want Gray Dixon peeing ASMR, or Gray Dixon talking to himself on the toilet ASMR, because that's what he's doing right now.
This is your fucking captain speaking. Thanks for having me on, Bonnie. I appreciate it. I've never fucking played this game before, so I actually had to go through and like watch TikToks of people playing this game and doing their own fuck ass voices to get an idea of like what the hell was actually going on. I did the voice recording wrong several times for probably 30 minutes before I was like, I should probably know the context. So yeah, little cool Shiloh lore to go with this recording. Anyway, fuck you, bye.